Hey everyone! Today, since it's close to Christmas, I thought that I would show you how to hand build a round outdoor ornament for a tree in your yard. And you can make many of these. They're a little heavy for a Christmas tree, but I have put them in my trees outside for years, and it's super fun to have a tree full of your own clay ornaments. And you can also carve these, slip these, however you want. You can make them multiple glazes. You can, like I said, I carve them, and so they're super pretty. And I also give them away as gifts. So we'll get started. Okay, so the way that I make these is in two parts. So there's two halves of the ball. And so I'm going to start with the first half. And I'm just going to roll out a nice coil. If you would like, you can pinch pot these, but I like to coil them, so I'm just going to push this down onto the bat like that. And we're just going to keep going, and this is pretty fast because it's not very far off the bat, and it's a very shallow half circle or half ball. So I am pinching at an angle, so I'm angling in because I'm going to just round this dome. So I'm never going to go anywhere close to going straight up. I'm just going straight around like that. Like that. And then we're going to take my tool, the little dental spatula that I use a lot, and we're just going to pull that clay down all the way around. There. And see how that's nice and angled in? Okay, and you can just kind of clean this bottom edge up a little bit, but we're going to clean that up a lot when we add these two pieces together. So we're going to make the first piece. And here we go around. We're going in. So in to go in. So I'm pressing this coil of the clay on the inside like that. And again, we're going to take our tool and pull down all the way around. Oops, sometimes it wants to separate a little bit. And you just push it back together. And I know this little piece looks pretty wonky, and they do end up looking a little wonky. They're not going to be like if you threw two halves on the wheel. And the reason I don't throw these on the wheel, a lot of people ask me why I don't, because when you do them on the wheel, there's so much trimming to make something this round. And I just think this is a more efficient way to make an ornament. But that's because I love to build. So, you know, you can always try these on the wheel. You can throw them in two parts, trim them, and then put them together. For those of you wheel people out there that would prefer to work on the wheel. Okay, so now we've gotten to the top, and we don't have a lot of space left to get our fingers in there, right? And I'm just taking my spatula and I'm just kind of starting to make a ball shape. And so now that I've gotten up to the top, I'm just going to make a little pancake like this. Like that. And I'm going to make the edges thinner than the middle. Gives us a better chance to join onto the pot, and I'm just onto the half ball, and I'm just going to start patting that down like that. And again, I'm going to take my little spatula and I'm just going to rub that edge down onto the half of my ornament. And now I'm just rounding all the way around, just trying to make it smooth. It's a lot like applying frosting. You're just not taking in, you're not putting anything on. Okay, so there we go. Whoops, there we go. Okay, so now you want to do the next thing and not forget. So I'm going to start to pull this up. Okay, I can see the circle where, I'm going to draw it out for you guys, where it was stuck onto this surface. Okay, so you're going to want to follow that when you do your second half. So we're just going to put this over here like that. And I am going to have to wipe this off, or else my my clay will stick to this wet. But I can still see where it was. And I'm going to go ahead before it dries and put another snake down there so I know exactly how big the other piece is. There we go, like that. And so this part should match up with the underside of this part. And that looks pretty good. Okay, and so you can just keep moving along and rolling out your snake. Oops, I just dropped some clay on the floor. And again, we're going in towards the center. And I'll get that piece of clay. And the only reason I'm showing you the second half is just because I can build this so fast. And in case y'all wanted to watch a little bit more building, you can. And just joining the clay together. I think these would be a lot of fun at Art Alliance, because of all the different ways you can glaze them, using all those beautiful glazes that there are at the studio. These could be just super fabulous. Like that. And just a little bit more to go before we make our pancake and put this other half aside to set up. So usually when I'm making these, I will put the two halves out in the sun, but I don't leave them there very long because they dry really fast, and you don't want to run the mistake of getting them too dry and then not being able to join them. Or you can stick them in front of the fans in the studio. But be careful, those fans, wow. I've dried out some things in the studio way too fast before because of those fans. So I'm going to make my pancake now. Little pancake. Again, thinner on the edges than in the middle. Just put that like that and pat it down. Oops. Sometimes if you pat too hard, you can dent your ball, but the great thing is they're so small that I can pick this up and I'm going to stick my, I can rearrange it from the inside once I take it off the bat. And again, we're just kind of rounding this over like that. There. And I've got this little indentation here. I'm just going to take this right off the wheel and just kind of round. Just smooth that little piece out in there, like that. And let's see, that's so much better. And you can just do that. Okay, these don't have to be perfect right now because we're going to manipulate them quite a bit to make them round. Okay, so now I have two pieces that have been sitting in the sun. And we're just gonna take one side and score, and I've got my little toothpick tool that works perfect, that I adore. We're gonna score pretty hardcore here, like that. And now I'm just gonna take some slip, or you can use water. This is mostly water. It's not as slippy as I normally would have. Okay, there you go. And just set that gently aside, like that. And then we're gonna stick. We're going to score and slip this side like that. And you don't need quite as much water since you've already slipped the other side. So just a little thin, little bit here. Now, I have all these little clay balls that I make out of all my little scraps. And I'm gonna take some and stick those in here because this will make a rattle. So all these nice dry pieces, because they're dry, they won't stick to the wet clay and they'll rattle around in there and it makes a nice noise. Okay, so we're just gonna put these two together. There we go, like that. It's a little dicey if they're too wet, so make sure you let them sit up a good amount. Every time I make these, it makes me think of macaroons. I would love a macaroon. I haven't had a macaroon all year. Okay, like that. So we've got it pretty good. Probably could twist it a little bit back and forth, getting those scored areas to really grab onto each other, okay? I think I could leave it like this and it would be fine. I wouldn't have to worry about it coming apart, but that doesn't look so pretty. So we're gonna just start to join this with your tool. You can also use a rib, whatever you have handy. But if you haven't gotten one of these spatulas yet, I recommend going on eBay. They're about $1.75 a piece, and they are so helpful in doing any kind of hand building because they can get into tiny spaces where the bigger ribs can't get in. Okay, I'm just gonna join this like that, and I'm wiping off my spatula every time that it collects any kind of clay. I'm just wiping it off on my work table. And I'm just going to keep working on it until I get it where I feel like it's nice and connected. Sorry about that. And then you can just kind of work your hands and make it nice and round. If you have any little hole, you can fill it in all the way around. I'm just going to kind of smooth it out like that, okay? Now, this is still pretty wet, so I'm going to set this aside on a chalk and let it sit. It's still really rough, but we're going to smooth this out later, so I'm just going to sit that right there on this chalk. Okay. Now, here's one that I put together, just like we just did, and set aside to harden a little bit so that I can do a bit more smoothing. So again, with my spatula, I'm just going to start to pull the clay where it looks rough and bumpy, just smoothing it out. Now, one thing that we really need to talk about is the fact that this ball is one big air pocket. So if you stick this in the kiln like this, without a hole in it, it's going to explode. And it would be a pretty massive explosion because that's a lot of air. So make sure that you stop and put a nice hole in your piece. And a lot of times I will put the hole, okay, that's pretty good. A lot of times I will put the hole right, I'm going to do this right now because I forgot to do this one. So I put the hole right here in one of these little dots, and that way people can't see the hole, but it's there. So we're just going to stick a hole right in there like that. So our hole is right here and nobody will ever see it. Okay, so the last thing that we need to do is put the handle on. Not that one, this one, nope, yeah. Not the handle, we need to put the hook where you're gonna put your nice piece of yarn, string, or rope. Okay, so all I do is just take a little snake, like that, and I'm just gonna loop it over my finger, like that, and pull that extra off, and then you're just gonna make both edges nice and flat like this. And then we're just gonna find where we want the top to be, and I think I want it to be right there. And I'm just gonna make these little score like that. So you can see like that. And then you're just gonna score and score. Okay, and I'm just gonna grab a tiny bit of water with my finger, just a little bit, okay? And then we're just gonna put this on like this. And that's a little wide for me. That's pretty wide, so I'm just gonna slide this in like that. And I actually think this is too big, so I'm just gonna take this off for a second, and I'm gonna start over. I think that's just too big. So we're gonna put this around our finger, pull off the excess, make both ends flat like that, and then we'll score, tiny bit of water like that. And we're gonna go in like this. And that's so much better, right? That looks so much better. Okay, so I'm just gonna push these together, and then we're just gonna attach each little foot of our hook to the piece. And then for an extra surety that it's in there, I just like to take my little, I'm gonna reach across. I like to take this tool. It's just a little rib, looks like a knife, and just make little indentions all the way around. And that just assures that the clay is meshing onto the ornament, because this is a thin little hook and you don't want your hook to fall off and then your piece just gets down on the ground and busts open. So we're pretty secure there. I'm gonna take my tool again and make a hole in one of these little notches here, so we know that it's nice and secure and not a big old air pocket. And that is how I make Christmas ornaments for my outdoor trees. I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Take care.